Hey guys, today we are going to be doing the comparison between the Colourpop Honey palette and the Midas Cosmetics Lemonade palette. And I also picked up with this palette the Catch Some Sun bundle, so I'm going to be using these brushes as well. This brush set has 6 brushes and it was $20, so it was definitely a good deal. I had 30% off of my purchase, so what, it ended up being like $13 for 6 brushes. A very good deal. And I've had a couple of Colourpop brushes, but not a lot. So I thought I'd give those a try and see what they're like. And then for the Honey palette, I picked this up. This has been like a long time coming. I picked this up like the second it dropped on the website. It did not even ship until a lot of people had already gotten it and posted their videos on this who had ordered it the same day that I did. So on top of that, I've tried to film this video twice now from my camera that has better quality to it. For some reason, that camera will not focus. And now this is my 3rd time. And let's just say it's not as fun filming the 3rd time as it is the 1st and 2nd time, but we're gonna let that roll off and enjoy it with some new brushes because I didn't have these brushes when I filmed the other ones. So for my comparison, I'm not gonna swatch each palette. I already have an entire video up on this palette from when I got it. I will link that in the iCards if you wanna check it out. But I am going to do swatches comparing the shades that are kind of similar, but spoiler alert, all the shades in both these palettes are different, and I'm glad I have both of them. So we'll talk more about that at the end. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with the mattes from the palettes. So I'm gonna start with, I'll just start with the lightest 3 right here. But I'm gonna leave some room in between for the lighter ones of the Colourpop palette. So we're going to start with, so here's Sweet. So you can see that is a really, really light one. And we've got Juicy, very, very pigmented, darker one. And Fresh is kind of in between. It's got a little bit more green undertone to it. So those are the 3 lightest ones from the Midas Cosmetics Lemonade palette. From the Colourpop one, Stinger is the very lightest one, but it has got this beautiful golden undertone to it. I love that shade. There's actually 2 in here that I thought were going to be a more muted neutral shade, and that is, boy, this is really not showing up very well on that yellow background. Stinger and Totally Buggin'. They are beautiful, and I thought they were going to be more of a neutral undertone, but they really do have that yellow goldeny shade to it. And then I'm going to go in with Sweet Spot, which, gosh, that is got the worst glare there. And Sweet Spot I'm going to put right here. Sweet Spot swatching is not quite as pigmented as these 2, and it does have that more goldeny undertone as opposed to that bright yellow undertone. Let me just build this up a bit. And I'm going to go in with OB Hive right here, which is the more goldenrod type of shade in this palette. But you can see that's a yellow with just a little bit of a golden orangey undertone. And then we're going to take this shade, which is the goldenrod shade from the Lemonade palette. This one is Twist. And I'm going to put that right next to this one. So you can see that just has more of the yellow undertone than this one does to it. Then last I'm going to take the more neutral shades from the palette, and I'm going to start with Totally Buggin' from the Colourpop one. We'll do Buzzkill from the Colourpop one. So here we've got Totally Buggin' and Buzzkill. Do you see how pretty that one is? It's got a little orangey undertone to it, but it is such a pretty shade. And then the last one I'm going to take of the mattes is Bitter from this Lemonade palette. You would think I have these shades all memorized by now as much as I've said them. So that is Bitter. So you can see Bitter is that brown, yellow, a little olivey kind of shade, but not a lot. So this one's more of a brown undertone, this one's more of a green yellow undertone in terms of a brown shade. So those are all the mattes. So you can see there's some similarities, but they really all are different shades. Okay, let me preface that. If you're a color lover and you know color and you are obsessed with colorful shadows, these are all completely different shades. If you just like to pop some color in here or there, then they all could be a little more similar to you in terms of just getting some yellow shades. Now we're going to go in for the shimmer shades. So both palettes have got 5 mattes and 4 shimmers, which I think is a beautiful ratio in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and start with the lighter one. So, ooh, my nails are dirty. This is Zesty and Squeeze. So we have Zesty and Squeeze from the Midas Cosmetics palette. And then we are going to go in with Sunburst from the Colourpop palette. I bet it's that mirror that's causing that brightness on the palette. So that one is Sunburst. And again, like, this is not yellow, but it is such a beautiful shadow that I like it. I like it still. Then our next lightest one is Frozen from the Midas palette. So those are probably the closest of shades that you're going to get from these two palettes. And then there's another shimmer shade that's fairly similar. We've got Queen Bee from the Colourpop palette, and that's pretty close to Tarte from this Midas palette. Okay, once again though, Tarte does have more yellow to it, and Queen Bee has a little more brown to it. And then the last one, we have a glitter in the Colourpop palette. This is Palooza, and I'm sure you've heard, if you've watched other Honey reviews, that this glitter is not eye safe. Those are all of the shimmery shades from the two palettes. So you see, these are all different too. These are close to similar. This one has a little bit of a white shift to it, and this one doesn't have any kind of shift to it. So here's all the shimmer ones. So in terms of this glitter shade, like, I'm someone who's probably going to try it on the eyes anyway, but I really dislike that they would put it in there if it's not safe for the eye, because the purpose of having an eyeshadow palette is to use it on the eyes. I would love to hear your guys' take on that, because I know I don't care if there's a glitter shade in my palette, but I don't want a glitter shade that I can't use on my eyes in my palette. So I will tell you, the Flower Bomb palette, this Flower Bomb palette, I've got a review coming of this up on my channel. This one has several glitters that are not eye safe in it as well. However, the yellow one is not listed as not eye safe. So there you go. And this palette's beautiful, but that's just a little tip for you if you want to do some Midas cosmetic shopping and have a yellow glitter that's safe for the eye. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the look. I'm going to do a very similar look on both eyes using the shades that are most similar to each other, even though they're not the exact same. I do have my eyelids primed already with the Essence eyeshadow primer, I think is what it's called. It's not my favorite by any means, but it's in my Shop My Stash, so I'm giving it a try so I can do a full review of that for you guys when I update it. And I'm going to use my Colourpop Catch Some Sun brushes. So here are the brushes that come in it. So we've got a fluffy blending brush. I don't know if these don't have names. E2. We've got F12. This is probably not going to be my most used brush, but this could be good for a transition area, I suppose. And this one I'm excited about. This is like a pinched blender. This is the E1. This is a pointed brush. This would be good for the outer V. This is an E5. And this is either a concealer or detailer brush. This is an E3. This would be really good for cutting the crease. And then we've got a flat definer brush. This is an E11. I'm going to start out with my fluffy blending brush. This is the E2, and from the Midas Cosmetics palette, I'm going to start with this one from the Midas Cosmetics one. That is Zesty, and we'll just see how it layers up compared to the other one. And this is going to be in the transition area. You know what? I took that fluffy one, but let's take this one. This is that oddly shaped one. That's just kind of weird. This would be good for your shadows that you've got to pat in, like those purples and blues and greens. And sometimes reds. Blending though, maybe not. So while we're here chit-chatting, if you guys know something I can do to my, so I have a DSLR camera, DSLR 8, no, DSLR, and then I'm going to take Sweet Spot from the Colourpop palette on the other eye. I've turned on and off the stabilizer. I have turned on and off autofocus. I do not know what to do to get that, because I have some videos up on my channel where it is stable. I've done it for some new makeup releases. I believe I did it for some kind of chit chat video. I can't get it to go not blurry. Just going back in with the Midas Cosmetics one real quick. So that Colourpop one, Sweet Spot is brighter than this one, but now I'm going to go in with Frozen, which is this one right here, and let me just see if I can brighten that up a bit. So definitely this one is more yellow, and this one has just a little bit of that orange undertone to it, but not enough that it looks orange. Right, next I'm going to take Twist here, and I'm going to take that, I'm going to take this pinched one. It could be a shader brush, or it could be a pinched brush for the crease, from my perspective. And that's what we're going to do with this, just define that crease with that deeper shade. I am cleaning these off between each use, and then I'm going to go in with Oh Behave from the Colourpop palette and deepen up the crease over here. I would say these two shades are pretty similar, but again, this one just has a slight orange undertone to it, where that just has that really pure yellow color to it. What are we going to do next? I'm going to give this a try for just this area right here, since I'm using a lighter shade on the outer V. So Bitter is going to be from the Midas Cosmetics palette, and I am going to do a halo eye, but I'm not going to do like a serious one with concealer cut crease. I'm just going to spray the shimmers for this halo eye. And I'm just taking that on the inner and outer corners of the lid. Well, that brush worked pretty good for that. There we go. This is probably a brush I'm not going to use very often. And then Buzzkill from the Colourpop palette, which is the deepest shade here. This one is still lighter than the one from the Midas palette, even though it's the deepest shade. But in my opinion, if I'm buying a yellow palette, I would much rather have yellow tone shades for all of them and pull in a brown than having a brown. Because yellow, I mean, much more than a goldenrod or a yellowy brown, you're not going to get much deeper with a yellow shade than you have with like this Midas one, I don't think. Uh-oh. You know what? I'm going to take this little pointed one right here. This is the E5, and go back in with Bitter and just build this up a little bit. I feel like this one got mixed in with the yellow shades. So as of now, I'm liking the Colourpop eye better, just the tone of that brown, but I do feel like there's a place for this brown as well, just in terms of the way that it looks here. I like the way that the Colourpop one looks better right now. Alright, I'm going to take this little detailer brush, which was the E3. From the Colourpop one, it's going to be Queen Bee and Sunburst. And from the Midas Cosmetics one, it is going to be Tarte and, what is this one? Frozen are the two I'm going to take for that. So I'm going to start with Queen Bee from the Colourpop palette. And I'm going to be using a fixing spray with all of these shadows. So I'm just going to pat this to be the outer part of the halo eye. I think I saw Raw Beauty Christy use this brush for cut crease for her concealer, and it just looked really nice when she was using it, and I have to agree, I really like this brush. I think it would be really nice for that. Alright, now I'm going to go in with my Midas one. Okay, so in terms of the shimmer, so far I'm liking the Midas Cosmetics one better. Next I'm going to use that same brush and Sunburst from the Colourpop palette. And then that's just going to get popped right in the center there. Look how pretty that is. And lastly, for the Midas Cosmetics one, I am taking Frozen. If these names would just be printed on the palette, it would be so much easier. So in Flower Bomb, the names are printed on the palette, so I don't know why they're not on this one. Maybe just the timeline of when they wanted to get it pushed out. I don't really know how all that works. Okay, so there, and there we have that one. Both of them looking really pretty. Now I'm liking the Midas Cosmetics one better. What I'm going to do now is, let's see, for the lower lash line, do I have a brush here? Yep, I can use this little pointed one for the lower lash line. For the Colourpop one, I'm going to take the shade Totally Buggin'. There is not a color like this in the Midas Cosmetics one, but I love this shade. I just think it's such a pretty shade. It really is like a honey. And then for Midas Cosmetics, I'm going to mix, you know what, maybe I'm going to mix a little bit of Bitter and this yellow here. I don't really think I'm going to try now mixing Bitter and the Goldenrod shade. That's a little bit closer. Okay, so obviously the eyes look a little different, but that's all right. For everything else, in my first time recording, I was going to do a yellow waterline and then something else for the wing liner, but I ended up going just all black since we're highlighting the yellow palettes this time, so I thought that that would really just help to highlight it. So I'm going to go ahead and do wing liner, tight line, mascara, and waterline all in black, and I'll be back to show you the final look and my thoughts on these palettes. I'm back with all that stuff on. I do want to, it's so pretty. You could totally tell though that this has got that more goldeny tone to it, and this just has that more bright yellow tone to it. So they definitely have a different feel to it. I do want to cut just a little bit on this crease, so I'm going to take on this little pointed brush the E5, the Goldenrod shade from the Midas palette, and just right above here. Get a little matte color going. I'm going to do the same in this one with Oh Behave. I always want to say Beehive because it's bee. With this same brush, I'm going to take the darker shades and just do a little bit of blending with the shimmer shades just to make sure they're really blended together. I'm going to actually take Totally Buggin', and it's going to go on the lower lash line for both eyes, and then I'm going to take the really bright shade from the Midas palette, and it's going to go on the inner corner for both eyes. And this really bright one here, which is Zesty. Okay, so the goal is I'm going to do all of those swatches and on my arm again and photograph it for Instagram and put like a CP or a M for whether it's Midas Cosmetics or Colourpop, so you can see up close and take a really good look at which one might be right for you. My Instagram account will be down below, so if you want to check that out. There we go. That is the two eyes. Very happy with both of them. So in terms of these two palettes, actually let me talk to you about the brushes too. What brushes? I would purchase all three of these on, like, I think these are all good brushes. I like them all. So the three on their own I think would be around the same price as the whole set, and I think that's why I just purchased the whole set. And they may still have, I mean, they always have a sale going on, so I'm sure you can find some kind of sale or coupon code. So in terms of these two palettes, I'm really glad that I have both of them. I think you'd be okay with one. And you guys can see the difference just from the eye look. This one does have that more yellowy tone. The big difference is this has got a lighter one, and this, it does look white, but it does have a yellow shift to it, and it has a deeper one. So this is the deepest of all of the palettes. I do wish that they had swapped one of these out for just a more mustardy yellow shade, instead of having, these yellows are just so similar. So that would be my only criticism for this palette, is I wish that it had a more mustardy tone and not two shades that are pretty much the same shade. But I love this palette. It's that true yellow tone palette, like you would guess with a lemonade palette. This one is $18, but Midas Cosmetics is always having sales on their website as well, and I want to say they're free shipping with 40, I think, in the US. I think I'm going to put this lippy on. This is the NYX Sugar Mama. What is it? What kind of lips? Strictly Vinyl. They have so many lips now. It's just kind of a brownish gloss. Okay, back to the palette. So in terms of this one, I think this is what you would expect from an Honey palette. This is Colourpop's yellow palette, but they did theme it honey, so it's going to be a little bit warmer. You know, it's going to have those more warm tones to it like honey does. Honey is just, you just think of a warmer yellow when you think of honey, and I think that's what they give you in this. I think that this Sunburst is beautiful with that like slightly blue shift to it, and I think that the neutral, like the ones that we thought were neutrals that Colourpop was playing it safe for, I think they end up being beautiful colors, and they still do have that yellow tone to it. So I think they did a really good job creating this palette as well. Boy, that yellow, I think maybe it's the plastic. That's one thing they could have done. They could have kept it in their cardboard packaging, but I do get that with these color themed palettes, that's something that they're doing, is they're putting them in plastic palettes, but they could have done cardboard. And definitely I wish that they would have popped this yellow glitter out and instead given us something like a yellow Super Shock shadow or something like that that's usable on our eyes, because I don't need a glitter that's not eye safe, even though I may use it. Which one should you get? I think whichever one you get, you're not going to be sad about. If you really want that yellow palette, then definitely go with the Lemonade palette. You can always mix these with different levels of brown depthness to get a little more honey to it, or a little orangey to mix with it to just get that shade that you want. If you don't really care and you're placing an order off of Colourpop, then go for the Honey palette. It was recently restocked. I don't know how long it's going to stay restocked for, because everyone is wanting a yellow palette. But if that glitter bugs you, then go with the Lemonade palette. You will not be disappointed. If you're someone who just wants a pop of yellow, but you like to keep it more neutral, then maybe the Honey one is better for you, because you've got those neutral tones that you can play with. To be honest, I think every single skin tone, eye color, anything will look good with a yellow eye look. I think yellow is neutral enough that you can pull it off without feeling like you're wearing some crazy color. I mean, I think anyone can pull off any color, to be quite honest. But I know everyone doesn't agree with that. I think yellow is definitely the color of the colors that you can wear and still feel like you've got a neutral look, but you've still got some color going on. So that's my review of these palettes. I would have said first impression the first time I filmed it, but now that I've used them so much, I pretty much know they're good quality now, and I can give you that review on them. Let me know what you guys are picking up, if you are getting the Colourpop one, the Midas one, or if you want nothing to do with yellow. I do plan on using these more. I will probably be using them in conjunction with other palettes, because June was rough on me, guys. June was rough on me. I bought a lot of things. So I just want to play with everything now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you guys so much for being a subscriber, taking time out of your day to check out my videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!